5 is meant to be coming out sometime next year, but I'm impatient, so I'm going to spend every waking hour of the next 5 days animating Shrek episode 5, so that you don't have to wait any longer. It's Monday, but if I don't finish by Friday, then I'll have to spin this wheel of punishments, which includes dressing up as Princess Fiona and finally doing my face reveal. I need to think of a game plan to ensure that I finish on time. In the next 5 days, I will have to write the script, plan out my shot list, gather assets, and finally animate the whole thing. Only after all that will I have made Shrek 5 before DreamWorks. Oh yeah, I'm wearing this Shrek filter from now on. Get used to it. Shrek 1, 2, and 4 are all iconic because of their amazing scripts. Shrek 3 is iconic because it's shit. So I need to think of something that will really stand the test of time. Something that will make the 14-year wait worth it. A script that really embodies the spirit of this legendary franchise. They're gonna be making waffles. That's the whole script. I drew the storyboard so that I wouldn't end up wasting any time animating shots that didn't end up getting used. The drawings aren't amazing, I wouldn't be putting them in an art gallery anytime soon, but they are enough to help me plan out this animation. It took the whole of day 1 to do that though, so if I don't want to have to dress up as Fiona, I'm going to have to get a move on. My goal for day 2 and 3 was to get all of the assets together, leaving me with 2 days to animate. To save time, I downloaded models of both Shrek and Donkey, and they are actually really good quality. I had to add new textures to Shrek, which I downloaded from Google Images and Polyhaven. At some point, I had a version of Shrek with human skin, and he might be the scariest thing that I have ever created. Human Shrek from the movie is a lot sexier. I aspire to look like human Shrek one day. Human Shrek is the pinnacle of man. Before we carry on, I need to get some voices for the characters. It would be cool to get the original voice actors, but when I messaged my very good friend Mike Myers, he said he was busy, so I guess I'll have to do it myself. There are a few ways I could go about doing this, but I think the best option would be to record my own voice with a slight accent, and then feed it into an AI voice changer for each of the characters. It will still probably sound terrible, but it's kind of my only option I have, because I don't have much time left. I apologise for what you're about to witness.
Hey Shrek! I'm making waffles. They're juicy, they're squishy, they're so good.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
After my honestly terrible attempt at doing the right accents, I was just hoping that the AI would be enough to carry the whole of this project. I downloaded the whole of the Shrek movie through very legal means, which I then cut up so that I had a compilation of just Shrek and Donkey's lines. I then trained an AI on them, and gave it my voice acting.
Here's an example of what it sounds like. While we're here, I think you should subscribe, because this video is f***ing painful to make.
Donkey and Shrek are looking good, but right now they can't move. I need to give them a rig so that I can control them to make them do what I want. Building the skeleton was easy, but then it came to weight painting. So the way this should work is I select a bone, then I select the mesh, and I can just choose which parts of the mesh the bone controls. Wow, I didn't think it would actually work that first time. I spent the first half of day 2 weight painting the character models, and now they work perfectly. Well, not perfectly, but it will be good enough. Now, onto the locations. There are 2 main places in my story, Shrek's swamp and the interior of his house. But I think it is time for a very quick side mission. The most iconic shot from Shrek, and one of the most iconic shots in film history, is our very first introduction to our massive green friend. I used a subdivided plane which could then be sculpted to make the landscape, a hair system to act as grass, and some downloaded assets to fill out the rest of the scene. Animating the character was surprisingly annoying because of my dodgy weight painting earlier, but it will have to do because I don't have much time left.
Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me.
I used the same methods to make the swamp exterior, but this time I needed a house. I started out with a circle, made it thick, and then extruded vertices from it until I had the base shape. I used some UV spheres to cover the sides with grass, and added all of the textures. Final touches were added like the roots coming out from the walls, and a few differently coloured patches of dirt, and the first setting was done. That took me hours to make, and I'm already part of the way into day 3, so I'm really going to have to rush if I want to get the second set done in time. I made a base shape for the walls using a cube, and then started adding the details. Tables, chairs, barrels, and Shrek's bed. I then used textures from Polyhaven to turn it from a white blob into something that looks more like the actual thing. I lit the scene only using light coming through the windows, which created some really realistic shadows and made the whole thing just feel that bit more cinematic. This is the recently discovered test done for the original Shrek, made in 1995. It was a lot more similar to the original book that Shrek was based on, but the studio thought it was so bad that it got a whole team of animators fired. Interestingly, JJ Abrams was one of the directors listed as working on this terrible animation. I guess Star Wars wasn't the only franchise that he completely messed up. I dropped Donkey and Shrek into my scene, then started working my way through the shot list, ticking off each section as I went. I wanted to keep to the principles that the original animators went by, making Donkey's movements over the top and cartoony, whilst keeping Shrek's more grounded in reality. To save time, I used looped animation for walking and other basic movements. I just made 4 key positions and let Blender fill in the rest. I could then keyframe the character to follow a set path whilst moving its arms and legs in a loop. I marked off the final part of my storyboard for scene 1, but when I moved to animate the shots inside the house, I realised I was missing the most important thing in the whole story.
Waffles.
By this point, I had under a day left to finish the whole thing, otherwise I would have to get into my Fiona dress and face reveal. So, with no other option, I decided to try an app called Polycam, which can scan real objects into a 3D mesh. I can just open the app and take lots of pictures of my waffle, which it would then process and turn into a 3D model for me. It's actually really accurate, and the amount of detail I got from a quick scan is honestly really impressive. It might just be the thing that saved the whole challenge. Now I can put it into Blender and finally start animating the final scene. Even though I only had about 10 hours left, I still took the time to add small details, like Shrek's eyebrows moving to show different emotions as he's talking. I rushed through the final shots, ticking off my plan that I drew on day 1. And now, I can finally get rid of the final storyboard because I finished animating.
Hey, Shrek! I'm making waffles.
Oh my god, for the last time. I'm not gonna help you make waffles.
Come on, Shrek, just one time. They're sweet, they're squishy, they're so good.
Donkey, I'm an ogre. I don't eat f***ing waffles.
It'll be fun.
Fine, I'll help you.
Ah, yeah, Donkey and Shrek, best friends for life.
You know what, Donkey? This is actually really nice.
See, Shrek, I knew you'd like them. You should really listen to me more often.
If I did, I'd be dead.
Oh, come on, Shrek. My ideas aren't that bad.
Shut up, Donkey.